Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hi, it's Jo and Steve, and we're here from sunny Auckland. Sunny, windy, noisy Auckland. Steve, we're just going to do a quick wrap up of this week's GDT and also some of the highlights of our very brief New Zealand tour.
Scoot around New Zealand, yeah. Okay, so GDT number 249. Some things in the background. We haven't had too many new data points since the last one, but we do have, I guess, some trade data which has come out from regarding New Zealand's exports, the fairly positive numbers.
Yep.
And we've got some changing conditions in New Zealand. I guess what we've seen, and we'll come on to this, is some of the conditions haven't got any better.
Yeah, that's right. And also what's happening in the EU and US markets is obviously there in the background. But it's a bit more of the same, really, isn't it? Skim's up, rest is down, fat's lower.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So that's loud boat noise on my left. The skim milk powder rally moves on. We've seen prices come back together a bit closer around different world markets. So yeah, things are fairly interesting. But bad news for fats.
That's right. Yeah, that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Just showing here some of the forward profiles and prices. So you can see how those fat prices have neatly cascaded down.
Absolutely.
With some different forward profiles. We go to the skim rally, which is just strengthening. And that's flattened out nicely in each case, the last three events, but we see those different regional prices converging. So in this event, we've got European and US seller prices the same, pretty much the same number. With New Zealand prices about $150 higher for that common product.
Sure.
Okay. So we've done a little tour around North Island, New Zealand in the last few days. What we've looked at are farm conditions and just seeing some of the scenery here that we videotaped on the way. The tour we've done has been to go from Hamilton northeast around a big loop, and there's a little bit of an interesting twist there we've had, Joanne, where we got detoured with some roadworks. But anyway, the main message is we've been around the major part of Waikato, seen as we're flicking through here some of the pasture growth readings at the moment. So growth rates well down on where they normally are.
Sure.
And that's been the accumulation of poor rainfall around the Waikato region, and that's been quite interesting to see in the flesh. Or the greenery.
Some regions really looking for rain in the next 12 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to fall off a cliff, some people are saying. So what are the big takeaways?
So we had some, I guess, short-term takeaways. The conditions are quite patchy.
Yeah.
And that's across New Zealand. So bottom of the South Island still wet and cold. Even in Waikato still patchy.
Yeah, and had a storm hitting the South Island just this week, so a bit of flooding and carry on down there as well. So we're expecting milk production to slow, but against prior year comparatives that were pretty ordinary in the first 3 months of the new year, so in Q3.
Yeah, so Q3 we should see a bit more, but I guess what some of the feelings are we're getting on the ground is that we might see production slow fairly quickly from here. The cash flow pressures that farmers are under now comes into play as supplements usually introduced to diets as we go past the peak into the shoulder period.
Yeah.
And so the vibe from those working with farmers is we're not going to see that spend because the cash flows are tight and because banks have squeezed and requiring principal and interest payments, essentially starting to repay principal. That's going to squeeze a lot of cash flow, and it'll be the feed that suffers. Yeah,
the flip side of that, I guess, is that we've also heard that in some areas there's been very good silage harvested. So, a lot of it'll be on-farm feed that's really critical to those summer months and how well the shoulder hangs on, won't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So very mixed, very hard to take away a general, production's going to be X% up or down from here, but we think it's going to slow from prior year comparatives in the next few months.
And then some of the medium-term issues that have been discussed.
We'd see limited growth in output, so we got limited kilograms, but certainly milk solids, if at all. I mean, that 3 to 5 year period, all the big levers are working against growth in production in New Zealand right now.
Yeah, so no conversions, the environmental pressures, the compliance constraints that farmers are under, that's where their investment dollars are going, if they have any, rather than in pushing production. And we are seeing a bit of a structural change in progress in terms of some of those systems that have driven production in the past, the share farming situations, moving to equity partnerships and contract milking agreements. And in the processing sector, of course, with what Fonterra is dealing with, we've seen Westland no longer a cooperative, so those changes are probably in their early stages, you would have to say.
And within regions, traditional regions like Waikato, where there's still a quarter of New Zealand's milk, pretty much, the structural changes about how farmers deal with what is essentially a lot more external pressure, compliance, etc., and whether consolidation can occur there. So it's going to be quite different to what we're seeing in the South Island.
Yep.
So that's probably the weakest part of the New Zealand model right now. It's that traditional area and how it copes for the next 5 years. So that's pretty interesting scenario, I guess.
Absolutely.
Moving to your chart of the week, what have you come up with?
Well, this week I thought we'd have a look at that protein to fat ratio, which really got messed up with the outflow of the or the fallout of the skim milk powder intervention issue, what that did to fat prices and what was happening to skim. And now we're really seeing those values come back more into that traditional alignment, although they're not yet there yet, Steve. No,
that's right. So if you look at that long-term average, 2015, that ratio was protein to fat 2.6.
Yep.
And so we got a fair way to get back up to that.
Yep.
But it's back in the right zone. And the way that that realignment is occurring, fat price is still falling, skim's still going. That'll continue to change.
Yep.
So that's probably a wrap as the wind just about lifts us off this wharf. We'll see you hopefully next week, and thanks for joining.